Raising children is one of the most sacred responsibilities a parent can ever undertake. Every smile, every word, every lesson you impart shapes the hearts and minds of the next generation. But in a world filled with doubt, distractions, and challenges, how do we nurture children who are not only knowledgeable, but deeply confident, resilient, and anchored in their faith? The truth is, strong Muslim kids are not born. They are shaped by intention, love, and guidance. They thrive when they feel secure in their identity, empowered by their values, and inspired by the example of their parents. It is about creating a home where love meets discipline, curiosity meets knowledge, and encouragement meets compassion. It is about teaching them to stand firm in what is right, to speak truth with kindness, and to trust in Allah even when the world seems uncertain. The way we raise our children today will echo in the leaders, thinkers, and caretakers of tomorrow. Every small step, every intentional conversation, and every prayer you make for them contributes to building a foundation that no hardship can shake. Anchoring a child's identity in faith begins long before they can articulate beliefs or understand the deeper meanings of worship. It starts in the quiet moments, when you recite Qur'an while they play beside you, when you whisper dua over them as they sleep, when they hear your voice soften at the mention of Allah. Children absorb faith not only through lessons, but through atmosphere. They learn belief by witnessing it. When a child feels the presence of Allah as something comforting, consistent, their identity begins to form around a sense of divine connection rather than worldly approval. They start to understand that their value is not determined by appearance, grades, or comparison to others, but by the one who created them with purpose. As they grow older, this foundation becomes even more crucial. The world will try to pull them in 1,000 directions. Some loud, some subtle, all competing for their sense of self. If their identity is not deeply rooted, they may bend under the pressure of fitting in, pleasing others, or fearing judgers. But when their hearts know who they are in the sight of Allah, they walk differently. They carry a quiet confidence, a dignity, an awareness that they belong to something greater than trends or opinions. They do not crumble easily because their roots reach deeper than the temporary noise around them. Anchoring their identity in faith also means teaching them the beauty of a personal relationship with Allah, not one built on fear or harshness, but on love, mercy, and trust. Let them know that Allah listens to them when they are scared, when they feel alone, when they are excited, or when they make mistakes. Show them that faith is not a burden but a refuge. When they begin to see Allah as their closest support, faith becomes something internal, not imposed. They start to turn to prayer on their own, speak to Allah in their own word, and see Him as part of their everyday lives. Children need to understand that faith is not perfection. It is effort. It is returning to Allah again and again with sincerity, even after falling short. Teach them that mistakes do not define them, and that guilt should never push them away from Allah. It should bring them closer. When they learn that they can be both flawed and loved, both learning and valuable, they grow into confident human beings who do not hide their struggles or fear judgment from the world. Stories are powerful tools in shaping identity. Tell them the stories of the prophets, not just as historical facts, but as living examples of courage, patience, kindness, and conviction. Let them see that Prophet Ibrahim stood firm even when alone, that Prophet Musa spoke truth in front of power, that Prophet Muhammad embodied compassion even when wronged. When children see faith expressed in strength and beauty, they begin to internalize those qualities. They start to feel proud of who they are and where they come from. Create rituals that build connection, praying together as a family, reading Qur'an in the mornings or evenings, making dua before meals and journeys, celebrating Islamic milestones with dua. Identity grows through repetition and warmth. The more positive associations they build with faith, the more naturally it becomes part of who they are. Even small, consistent practices can shape their hearts for a lifetime. Finally, speak to them with affirmation. Tell them that Allah created them intentionally, that they are cherished, that their voice matters, that their presence is a gift. When their self-worth is nurtured at home and aligned with a higher purpose, they develop a kind of confidence that does not need validation from anyone else. They begin to understand that being a Muslim is not something to hide or apologize for. It is something to carry with grief for. Anchoring their identity in faith is not a one-time lesson. It is a journey built through everyday moments, gentle reminders, compassionate teaching, and a home that reflects the values you hope to see in them. And when their identity is firmly rooted in Allah, you give them a strength that nothing in this world can take away. Leading by example is one of the most powerful forms of teaching, especially in the eyes of a child. They watch more than they listen, absorb more than they are instructed, and imitate even the smallest behaviors they see. A child's heart is soft clay, shaped not by lectures, but by the everyday actions of the people they trust most. When you want to raise a child who is kind, patient, confident, and grounded in faith, you must first strive to live those qualities yourself, not perfectly, but sincerely. Children can sense authenticity. They know when something is real, and when it is merely spoken. When a child sees you turn to prayer not only out of obligation, but out of need, gratitude, and connection, they understand that prayer is not a ritual, but a refuge. When they witness you reciting Qur'an with humility, they begin to see the words of Allah as a source of peace rather than pressure. When they notice you admit your mistakes, apologize sincerely, or speak with respect even when you are upset, they learn that strength does not contradict softness, and that humility does not weaken dignity. These lessons do not require lectures. They unfold naturally through the rhythm of your daily life. Children learn emotional regulation from the way you handle frustration. If you want them to manage anger with composure, let them see you breathe deeply instead of raising your voice. If you want them to be forgiving, let them witness you choosing mercy even when irritation feels justified. If you want them to be confident, let them watch you try new things, face your fears, and rise after setbacks. A child's inner dialogue is often built from the tone and behavior they see modeled at home. When you show them how to face life with grace, they grow up believing they can do the same. Leading by example also means living the values you ask them to adopt. If you emphasize honesty but tell small lies in front of them, even casually, they internalize that truth is flexible. If you teach them generosity but express resentment while giving, they learn that kindness is an obligation rather than a joy. If you ask them to be grateful but constantly complain about life, hardships, or people, they absorb negativity instead of appreciation. Children do not just listen to your words. They absorb your energy, your reactions, and your worldview. But leading by example is not about pretending to be flawless. Children do not need perfect parents. They need present and sincere ones. When you fall short, and everyone does, use that moment as a teaching opportunity. Let them see you apologize. Let them see you make amends. Let them hear you say, "I was wrong, and I am trying to do better." This teaches them accountability without shame and growth without fear. It shows them that making mistakes is part of being human, and that self-improvement is a lifelong journey. Your relationship with Allah is also something they learn through observation. When they see you make dua in moments of difficulty, they learn to turn to Allah instead of despairing. When they see you give charity quietly, without bragging or expecting praise, they discover the beauty of sincerity. When they hear you speak well of others, guard someone's dignity, or avoid, they learn to value the integrity you demonstrate. When they witness your patience during hardship, They begin to understand that true strength lies not in reacting with anger or fear, but in trusting Allah's wisdom. Even your smallest habits shape their character. The way you greet others, the way you speak to your spouse, the way you respect elders, the way you treat those who serve. Children observe all of it. They internalize your manners, your compassion, and your boundaries. A child raised in a home where kindness is practiced becomes naturally compassionate. A child raised in a home where love is expressed becomes emotionally secure. A child raised in a home where faith is lived becomes rooted and confident. Ultimately, leading by example is about embodying the values you wish to instill. It is about living with intention, knowing that the seeds you plant in your own actions will blossom in your children's hearts. When they see your actions align with your words, they develop trust. Trust in you, trust in what you teach, and eventually trust in themselves. And this trust becomes the foundation upon which their character is built. Without needing to lecture, you become their first teacher, their first role model, and their first window into what it means to live a righteous, compassionate, and confident life. Encouraging curiosity and welcoming questions is one of the greatest gifts you can offer a child. It is through curiosity that they learn to observe the world, explore ideas, and understand themselves. Children come into this world with a natural desire to learn. They ask why, not to annoy, but to understand. When a parent nurtures that instinct instead of suppressing it, the child grows into a confident thinker, someone who trusts their own ability to seek knowledge and find answers. Curiosity is not the enemy of faith. It is often the doorway to deeper belief, stronger conviction, and a more personal connection with Allah. Many children stop asking questions not because they lose interest, but because they fear being dismissed, scolded, or ridiculed. When you create an environment where questions are welcomed, even the difficult or uncomfortable ones, you teach your child that their voice matters. You teach them that knowledge is a journey, not a threat. You show them that Islam is a faith built on reflection, contemplation, understanding, and sincere seeking, not on blind obedience or silence. This helps them grow into Muslims who embrace their faith not out of pressure, but because it makes sense to them, because they see its beauty and wisdom with clarity. Encouraging curiosity also means giving your child space to explore ideas even when those ideas challenge you. Their questions may reveal their fears, their confusion, or their inner struggles. Instead of reacting with disappointment, meet them with gentleness. Say things like, "That's a great question," or "I'm glad you asked," or "Let's learn the answer together." These responses strengthen their trust in you. They learn that they can turn to you without fear. And when a child feels safe to ask you about faith, emotions, friendships, and even doubts, you become the first place they turn. Not the internet, not peers, not strangers. Sometimes a child will ask questions about Allah, about death, about heaven, about why bad things happen, or why prayers are answered in certain ways. These questions are signs of growth, not rebellion. Encourage them to explore these thoughts. Share stories from the Qur'an that address their concerns. Teach them that even the prophets asked questions, not out of disbelief, but out of longing to understand. When they see that questioning is part of the spiritual journey, they stop associating curiosity with guilt. Encouraging curiosity also means allowing your child to discover through experience, not just instruction. Let them explore nature, observe how the world works, see patterns, ask about the stars and the seasons. These things open their hearts to the signs of Allah in creation, show them how the natural world reflects divine design. Let them see that learning is not confined to books. It lives in everything around them. Another powerful way to encourage curiosity is to admit when you don't know something. Parents are not expected to have all the answers. In fact, when you say, "I don't know, But let's find out together. You teach them that not knowing is not a weakness. You teach them humility, intellectual honesty, and a healthy approach to knowledge. They learn that seeking answers is more meaningful than pretending to know. Creating a home that nurtures questions also means responding with patience. There will be moments when the barrage of why feels overwhelming, but try to see it as a sign that your child feels safe with you, that they believe you are someone worth learning from. Every question is an opportunity to build connection, trust, and understanding. When you encourage a child's curiosity, you are shaping their future confidence. A child who learns to ask questions becomes an adult who can think critically, make informed decisions, and stand firm in their beliefs. They are less likely to follow the crowd blindly and more likely to seek truth with awareness. They become resilient thinkers who are comfortable exploring, learning, and growing. In the realm of faith, curiosity strengthens conviction. When a child understands that the why behind the that's what, faith becomes rooted in certainty rather than fear. They learn that Islam invites reflection, values knowledge, and embraces thoughtful seeking. And when children grow up knowing they are allowed to question, they grow into Muslims who choose faith wholeheartedly, not just because they inherited it, but because they understood it. Ultimately, encouraging curiosity and questions is about giving your child the confidence to think, reflect, and engage with the world. It is about teaching them that seeking knowledge is an act of worship, that asking questions is a sign of intelligence, and that their mind is a gift entrusted to them by Allah. When you nurture this part of them, you empower them to walk through life with clarity, wisdom, and a heart that is both open and anchored in truth. The building emotional resilience within a child is one of the most meaningful investments you can make in their future. Life will not always be gentle, predictable, or comfortable. Challenges will come in different forms: disappointment, loss, peer pressure, criticism, fear, failure, or uncertainty. You cannot shield your child from every hardship, but you can equip them with the inner strength to navigate those moments with patience, courage, and trust. Emotional resilience is not about being tough or unfeeling. It is about learning how to bend without breaking, how to fall and rise again, and how to stay connected to Allah even in moments of vulnerability. The first step to building emotional resilience is acknowledging a child's emotions rather than dismissing them. When they cry, feel embarrassed, or get frustrated, avoid saying things like, "Stop crying," "It's nothing," or "Don't be upset." These statements teach children to hide their feelings rather than understand them. Instead, give their emotions space. Say, "I can see you're upset," or "It makes sense that you feel this way." By validating their feelings, you help them learn that emotions are not weaknesses, but normal human experiences. A child who learns to name and express what they feel grows into an adult who does not fear their inner world. Resilience is also taught through how you respond to their failures. When your child does not succeed at something, whether it's a test, a sport, or a personal goal, avoid rushing to fix it or blame external factors. Instead, help them focus on effort, growth, and improvement. Teach them to see failure as a stepping stone, not a verdict. Let them know that success does not come from being perfect, but from trying again, learning from mistakes, and trusting that Allah's timing is always wiser than their own. When children see setbacks as part of the journey, they no longer fear them. Another essential aspect of emotional resilience is teaching your child coping mechanisms rooted in faith. When they face stress or fear, guide them toward tools that strengthen their hearts. Making dua, taking deep breaths, reciting short surahs, remembering that Allah is always with them. Show them how turning to Allah brings calmness to the heart. When they see you doing this in your own difficult moments, they will naturally follow your example. Knowing they are never alone, even when things feel overwhelming, gives them an inner steadiness that cannot be shaken by worldly challenges. It's also important to expose children to manageable challenges. If you solve every problem for them, they never learn problem-solving skills or the confidence that comes from overcoming something on their own. Give them age-appropriate responsibilities, allow them to make small decisions, and let them experience the consequences of those decisions in safe ways. When they feel capable of handling things independently, their confidence grows. They begin to trust themselves instead of panicking when faced with something new. Emotional resilience also grows from creating an environment where mistakes are not punished harshly. A child should feel safe to admit wrongdoing, apologize, and try again. When mistakes are met with extreme anger, shame, or humiliation, the child learns to hide the truth and avoid responsibility. But when mistakes are treated as opportunities for learning, the child builds honesty, accountability, and self-respect. They learn that falling down does not make them unworthy. Staying down is the only real defeat. Positive self-talk is another powerful element of resilience. Children often internalize the voice they hear most. Speak words that plant strength within them. You can handle this. I believe in you. Allah believes in your potential. You are strong even when you feel afraid. Over time, these words become part of their inner dialogue, guiding them long after childhood. Finally, emotional resilience is built on unconditional love. A child who knows they are loved, not because of their achievements, behavior, or perfection, but because of who they are, develops a core stability. They learn that their worth is not fragile, that their failures do not erase their value, and that their struggles do not make them a burden. This sense of secure attachment becomes the foundation for a strong and balanced emotional life. In the end, building emotional resilience is not about eliminating discomfort. It is about teaching a child how to navigate it with faith, strength, and self-awareness. It is about guiding them gently, supporting them consistently, and reminding them that every hardship carries a lesson. Every setback carries an opportunity, and every moment of difficulty carries the nearness of Allah. When they possess this kind of resilience, they walk through life with a heart that can withstand storms and still find its way back to peace. Empowering a child through responsibility is one of the most transformative ways to help them grow into confident, capable, and self-aware individuals. Responsibility is not merely about giving them tasks to complete, it is about communicating trust, belief, and value. When a child is entrusted with something meaningful, no matter how small, they begin to understand that they are capable, that their actions matter, and that they have a role to play in the world around them. This understanding becomes the foundation of maturity, self-esteem, and inner strength. Children naturally rise to the level of expectation set for them. When responsibility is offered with encouragement rather than pressure, it becomes a path toward empowerment rather than burden. A child who is given age-appropriate responsibilities learns that effort leads to growth, that contribution brings purpose, and that independence is earned through small steps. Something as simple as tidying their room, helping set the table, caring for a younger sibling, or managing their schoolwork teaches them discipline, consistency, and accountability. These daily habits slowly shape a mindset of ownership, a belief that they have control over their actions and choices. Responsibility also builds emotional maturity. When a child is entrusted with tasks, they learn to manage frustration and the discomfort that often comes with perseverance. They begin to understand that success is not instant and that mistakes are not failures but opportunities to learn. When you guide them gently through these experiences, rather than rescuing them at every difficulty, you teach resilience. You show them that they are strong enough to try again, capable enough to problem solve, and valuable enough to be trusted. But empowering through responsibility does not mean giving a child adult burdens. It means offering them challenges that stretch them just enough to grow without overwhelming them. The goal is not to create pressure, but to nurture confidence. A child who is given too little responsibility may feel underestimated or incapable. A child given too much may feel anxious or unsupported. The key is balance, offering responsibilities that match their age, temperament, and readiness, and then walking beside them as they learn. Equally important is how you respond to their efforts. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Praise their attempts, not just their outcomes. When a child feels appreciated for trying, they become more willing to engage, more eager to contribute, and more open to developing new skills. Avoid harsh criticism or disappointment when they fall short. Instead, teach them how to reflect, adjust, and improve. This is how responsibility becomes a source of empowerment rather. Giving children responsibility also helps them understand their place within the family. It teaches them that home is not just a place they live, it is a community they help maintain. When they see parents working hard, serving each other, and fulfilling their own responsibilities, they naturally begin to imitate that sense of contribution. They grow up understanding the value of teamwork, mutual support, and shared effort. This prepares them to become responsible adults who contribute positively to their communities, workplaces, and relationships. Responsibility can also deepen a child's sense of identity and purpose. When they see the results of their efforts, cleaning something that stays clean, completing a task that helps everyone, or making a decision that leads to a positive outcome, they develop pride in their abilities. This internal confidence becomes a shield against peer pressure, insecurity, and self-doubt. A child who believes, "I can handle things," walks with a different kind of strength. Spiritually, responsibility teaches them accountability before Allah. As they grow, they learn that actions have consequences, that choices reflect values, and that integrity matters even when no one is watching. This forms the basis of taqwa, self-discipline, and moral awareness. When children learn to take responsibility for their behavior, their words, and their decisions, they develop a strong inner compass that guides them even when you are not present. Empowering a child through responsibility is ultimately an act of trust. It tells them, "You are capable. You have something to offer." These words do not need to be spoken out loud. They are communicated through every task you ensure, every opportunity you provide, and every moment you believe in them. And when a child grows up feeling trusted, valued, and capable, they become adults who walk into the world with confidence, purpose, and a heart ready to contribute. Cultivating compassion and a spirit of service in a child is one of the most transformative gifts you can give them. It shapes not only how they see others, but how they see themselves and their purpose in this world. Children are naturally empathetic. When they see someone cry, their instinct is to comfort. When they notice someone struggling, they often step forward without hesitation. But as they grow, the world's noise, competition, and pressures can dull that instinct unless it is intentionally nurtured. Teaching compassion is not about grand gesture. It is about shaping a heart that feels for others, a mind that recognizes humanity, and a soul that understands the value of giving. Compassion begins at home. When a child watches you speak gently even when tired, they learn that kindness is not conditional. When they see you forgive instead of holding grudges, they understand that mercy elevates a person. When they notice you helping someone without seeking praise, they start to realize that service is something sacred, not transactional. Children learn compassion from the tone you use, the patience you show, the gratitude you express, and the way you treat people who cannot offer you anything in return. Every moment in the home is a lesson in building a soft heart with a strong moral compass. Teaching compassion also means validating your child's feelings. When you acknowledge their sadness, fears, or frustrations, you show them that emotions are not weaknesses. A child who feels understood becomes someone who understands others. A child who feels seen becomes someone who sees others. When you model emotional sensitivity, they learn to respond to others with gentleness rather than judgment. They learn to approach people with curiosity instead of criticism. Emotional literacy is the foundation of empathy. Introduce your child to the idea that every person has a story, and every story contains struggles we may not see. Encourage them to think before judging, to ask before assuming, and to reflect before reacting. When they learn that everyone carries burdens, compassion becomes their natural response. Teach them to look beyond appearances, beyond differences, beyond the surface. Let them know that true strength lies not in superiority, but in humility. Cultivating compassion also requires giving children opportunities to serve, not as punishment and not as a form of forced obligation, but as a meaningful act. Let them help pack food for someone in need, give away toys they have outgrown, or spend time with someone who feels lonely. These experiences shape their hearts far more deeply than lectures ever could. When children witness the impact of their actions, service becomes something they seek rather than avoid. They begin to understand that even a small effort can bring light into someone's world. But service is not only about charity. It is about being present for people. Helping a sibling with homework, cook for a friend, offering a smile to someone who looks sad. Teach them that kindness is not limited to financially helping the needy. It includes emotional support, good manners, listening with sincerity, and showing respect to everyone. When compassion becomes part of their character, they walk through life uplifting others rather than stepping over them. Compassion should also be tied to gratitude. A child who recognizes their blessings becomes more inclined to share them. When you teach them to reflect on what they have, health, home, food, love, they naturally begin to feel a sense of responsibility toward those who have less. Gratitude softens the heart and inspires generosity. Make gratitude a daily practice in your home, through dua, through reflection, through acknowledging small and big blessings. Let your child see the compassion in the prophetic character. Tell them about how the Prophet Muhammad comforted the broken-hearted, cared for the poor, freed slaves, tended to the sick, and stood for justice with profound mercy. Show them that compassion is not a sign of weakness, but a reflection of divine strength. Let them know that the most beloved to Allah are those who bring benefit to His creation. Ultimately, cultivating compassion and service is about raising a child who sees others as souls, not objects, who sees service as an honor, not a burden, who understands that goodness is not limited to words, but is proven through action. When compassion becomes part of who they are, they grow into adults who heal rather than hurt, who build rather than break, who serve rather than demand. And in a world that often feels harsh and divided, a heart trained in compassion becomes a source of light, guiding, soothing, uplifting, and inspiring everyone it touches.